Yeah, his name is Joe Albright, and my documentary is called Saint Joseph. And he's a saint because he feeds the animals and he feeds pigeons, squirrels in and around the State House grounds. He's been a reporter and columnist for the Jersey Journal of Hudson County. He started the job October 10th, 1964, the real Columbus Day. That's his quote. And he's still at it 55 years later. He's pretty incredible person. He's like one of those, he reminds me of my Aunt Sis, who was always, had her rosary beads and was always in prayer. And so this man, Joe Albright, so not only is he the longest living, longest serving State House reporter in American history, he also, on his way to work each day, takes bags of peanuts and bird feed, and he has designated spots where he blesses and feeds his animals. He calls them his animals. And his favorite is a stray cat, which he has named Trusty. I named her Trusty because she learned to trust me. I can't think of a better name. So that's a little pitch about the documentary, which is pretty much done. I'm waiting on licensing, and I'm tracking down people to get their releases signed. And I'm tracking down music and paying for music. And then now that it's done, I have to figure out where it will air. I hope it airs on NJTV, where I used to work. I would love for it to air on WNET, WHYY. And then I also have to try and get money because I'm out of pocket on this. And it's, I mean, it's a labor. It's something I knew I had to do. If I can get some underwriters, that's all the better. And marketing I'm not so good at. Okay, I'm a storyteller, but I have to learn all the other aspects, like how to raise money. In my career, over 28 years as a videographer, producer, editor, cameraman, I just had to go out and make the stories, shoot the scenes, shoot the game, shoot the interview. I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to produce some segments, public affairs segments, but I never really looked at the side of it of underwriting because we had a whole department that did underwriting, and I never really had to do that. I was fortunate enough early on to have some success. In 1987, I came to the producers of, the management, and I said, we should do something about recycling, because I was an avid recycler and my parents were avid recyclers. But this was before it was mandatory. We participated in the newspaper drive, tying up the papers and put them out for the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts. And my father was always recycling glass, and you had to make an effort, to do it. And I looked around at my friends and other people, and they would just throw their trash away. And now recycling, like, you get in trouble if you don't recycle. Like, if I throw something away that doesn't have the certain number of plastic, my son will say, Dad, and I'm like, dude, I invented recycling, So anyway, so I put together a series, a 3-part series in 1988, and I shot it and produced it and cut it. And that was at a time when I was not a legit producer. I was basically a sound tech who was allowed to shoot sometimes. And then I came up with this idea for this series, and we did it, and it worked out really well. And the executive producer submitted it for a local Emmy in the Philadelphia market, and it won an Emmy. So I was like, I was quite surprised, because once I finished the project, I went back to my regular job as a sound man. A couple months later, this friend of mine, Ron Wagner, greets me in our garage and says, I'm loading up the camera for the day. And he says, hey, congratulations. I said, for what? He said, you got nominated for an Emmy. I said, I didn't know that. They never even told me they were entering it. So that was exciting. And, you know, after that, I've done projects on any number of public affairs, public interest. I did a thing called Plastic Packaging, Here Today, Here Tomorrow, which I got nominated for an Emmy, unfortunately did not win. I did a half-hour public affairs called The Air We Breathe, which is all about the 1980 Clean Air Act Amendment, no, 84, the George Bush Clean Air Act amendments that were done after, you know, President Nixon came up with the Clean Air Act, and then it needed the document, the law needed amendments in the 80s, 84, I believe it was. And so that was George W. Or no, maybe it was 86. Anyway, I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit nervous here. So I did a half hour on that called The Air We Breathe. And we basically analyzed, you know, how New Jersey got such horrible air quality. We're the, you know, most densely populated state, and turns out that a lot of the air problems come from other states. You know, there's these the ozone drifts over from other states. You know, the coal plants in Pennsylvania. So we analyzed a lot of that, and that was a great project, and that led to another project that I did called Alternative Fuels Driving the Future. That got nominated, and that was a look at, you know, what's all the rage now is the hybrid cars, electric cars. Well, I did a series and a half-hour documentary on alternative fuel vehicles in 1989. So I guess I was a little bit ahead of the time. But again, I did a project, I finished it, and then I went back to my regular gig as a cameraman and an editor. And I never really, I mean, the shows were great, and I got a lot of pats on the back and a lot of nice attaboys, but I never learned about the marketing aspect of it. So that's what I have
Tim,
to
I'm